Hi, ladies. Thanks for joining us.
Welcome. I see people joining. Welcome, everyone. We're just getting our technical house in order and trying something new. So welcome, everyone. We'll wait for a couple minutes for more people to join. Okay. We have quite a few ladies. We're going to kick off. We're just getting set up in place. Are we good to go?
Yes.
Okay.
Welcome, ladies. If you are joining us, we just want to say welcome. We are the EPR Women's Network, and we are a group of like-minded young professional women who exist as a platform to help each other succeed personally and professionally. Do us a favor, if you're here today for the first time or somebody invited you, just post in the chat box who invited you. We are a very engaging group. And what you can expect from every EPR webinar is one, great content, carefully curated just for you, an engaging platform. We want to hear from you. So just to orient you to what's going on, we are recording both through Zoom and also Facebook Live. So feel free to use the chat feature. Just let us know who invited you, let us know where you're from, and we will always be monitoring each of those chat windows to hear questions from you. And the last thing we want to say is This is our March webinar, so this is in celebration of the International Women's Day, which was on March 8th. We know that there's a lot that has happened in the world since then, but this is precisely why we exist as well. We want to discuss issues that matter, and we always do. And this month, we are talking about inequality and bias. So stay tuned for great content. We are actually very excited because we have in our midst some formidable leaders who are here with us. So we want to quickly introduce our panelists and jump right in. So first is Ms. Feyi Boroffice, who is a senior private sector specialist at the World Bank. So she is based in Abuja, Nigeria, and we are really excited that she is able to join us today. Also on the roster for our panelists, we have Ms. Agnes Bamidele, who is based in the UK. So we're really excited to have Agnes with us today. She is not only a wealth management consultant with UBS, but she is also the director of Olivet Insights, which is a company that you'll be hearing more of in the future. Really just insights for personal living and for women all over the world. And last but not least, we have Miss Vanessa Adebayo, who is actually based in the US, but is somehow in Nigeria at the moment, a globetrotter really at heart. She travels all over the world speaking on issues that matter. She is also the executive director of AMHM, which stands for Africa's Mental Health Matters. Isn't that the truth? So we're really excited to have these ladies with us. And also on our list of panelists is the director and really the founder of Esther's Preparation Room, EPR, Miss Pastor Adenike Bolarinwa. She wears many hats. So she goes by PN, she goes by Pastor Nike, she goes by Adenike, but really her passion and her life's mission is to empower women to emerge in all spheres of their lives and to encourage women to realize fully their potential in every single way possible. So with that, I'm gonna hand off to Pastor Nike. And ladies, welcome. Feel free to share the information about the Facebook Live. Feel free to share the Zoom link. This is a very interactive session. We have a lot of people on the line already, but there's room for more. And just to kind of set the stage for what we're doing here today, we know that in the last 100 years, there's been a lot of progress in terms of equality, gender equality. Women have made a lot of strides, both professionally, in government, in politics. And we have here some statistics, right? We have 11% of the 197 countries in the world with female heads of state. These are recognized leaders who are really setting the conversation for what happens internationally. We have 58% of women are college graduates, so literacy has improved. We also have improvements in the world of business and the C-suite. We're always talking about women really reaching the highest level. We have 14% of top executives in Fortune 500 companies who are women. And so you see these statistics and, it might look as though everything is great, but we know that it's not perfect. And so we still have a lot of work to do. And so this session is really curated to give us practical ways that we can bridge the gap, right? How can we bridge the gap? How can we empower other women? And that's really what the EPR Women's Network stands for. We are a platform of professional women who encourage each other to succeed personally and professionally. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Pastor Nike.
Thank you very much, Chichi, for that wonderful introduction. And thank you to everyone that has joined today. We're quite excited. There is a lot of engagement that we're expecting today, and I'm looking forward to chatting with these amazing ladies and all the amazing things they're doing. So I know we've been introduced to Vanessa, to Aggie, as we call her, and to Feyi. So let me start off. Let's get to know some of the ladies a bit. So at any point in time, as I throw the questions out, please feel free to just tell us a bit more about you and your background. So we're doing this in honor of International Women's Day. And we know that it's a celebration for women. It's a celebration of what women have achieved, and for us as women to encourage each other. And so the slogan that says each for equal, it talks about, an equal world is a world where every woman is engaged, is when every woman feels enabled and empowered. And I'm curious, what does that mean for you, thinking about it as a woman? What does that mean to you? And have you always, you're all doing amazing things in your career, have you always felt empowered? Have you always felt enabled being in that environment, or have you had to empower yourself and push your way forward to make sure that you're enabled? So I'd love to hear, and I know you guys have a myriad of experiences for yourself and what you've seen. So let me kick off with Feyi. Let me know your thoughts.
Okay, thanks, Nika. So, I mean, for me, this is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. I've always been an advocate of women's rights and women's empowerment. Growing up, I don't even think I realized I was a woman. I didn't realize there was anything special about being a woman. I was always top in my class. I went to an all-girls high school where we were told we were queens. I was I did really well in school, university, what have you. But I think really when I started realizing the gender dimension to things was when I started working. And then I realized, wow, okay, a lot of my colleagues, especially as I got higher in my career, a lot of my colleagues were more and more male. We started off, pretty balanced, in school, everything was quite balanced. Then you start work, you're balanced, but slowly and steadily, women are dropping off, things are happening, they get married, they have kids, and then there are fewer and fewer of us around. And then you look up and you're like, okay, there are barely any women running this institution. So yes, it is, for me, an equal world is indeed an enabled world. And this is a great time to be a woman, because the world is finally realizing that an inclusive world in which women have a fair say and representation is actually necessary. And for me as a Christian, I mean, I also see that it is really much in line with my Christianity. A world that is run by men is not utilizing the capabilities of half the workforce that half the people that God created. In the beginning, God realized the importance of both men and women, and that is why, saying man should not be alone, and that's why he created woman. So for me, it's a really important topic. Thanks. I'll stop there for now.
Thank you. Wow, interesting. So Vanessa, in your experience, and I know we're going to come to it in a bit more detail as we go along, but you've really taken a very interesting step to go after a passion that came through, I guess, through study and through research. You actually saw a gap. Tell us a bit about your journey, and although you have a passion for mental health, did you notice any disparity in terms of how mental health issues are addressed between men and women? What does that phrase, from the lens of what you do in mental health, what does that mean?
First off, thank you for having me. And I think for me, first and foremost, with my first time even researching mental health, I realized that it's a big stigma amongst men in the African culture, specifically amongst everyone, but men especially, because they're taught as men to not be in touch with their feelings or their emotions or come to terms with what they're dealing with. And so you see a lot of times women are deemed more emotional or more willing to be forthcoming about what they're dealing with, but then men are told to kind of keep it internally and they sometimes even feel like they don't really have anyone to offload a lot of the things that they're going through. And so being in this space, I mean, I think a lot of misconception is that this is a women's led for women's organization, and it's not. We're continually trying to destigmatize that, because we want people to know that mental health doesn't have a color, a race, a gender, a demographic. It applies to us all, including men. I think in this space, it's kind of hard because I've always kind of seen men in leadership in terms of like entrepreneurship, organizations, and now being in this space where I have authority and I have an opportunity to lead, sometimes I find it quite intimidating. I'm like, oh wow, like, it's a new space that I'm in. But I think that something that helps me, going back to the quote, is that I realize that God has put a purpose in me, and that he's given me all of the tools that I need to be able to fulfill it. And he's also empowered me to be able to walk in my purpose and know that even if I don't know exactly what's to come my way, he will help me every step of the way.
Thank you. Thanks, Vanessa. That's excellent. And we'll come to Aggie. And in particular, Aggie, I wanted to pick your brain and to hear your thoughts. I know you have a very wide experience working in the corporate world, especially within the phrase of financial services. And you are in an area in financial services in the UK where there's already a huge racial imbalance. And you are then also, we bring the lens of gender. This is not from a good or bad, this is just pure statistics. Do you sometimes think that you've also faced a level of bias in your professional career from a 2-point perspective, or tell us some things that you've experienced when it comes to women in the corporate industry?
I think, hello everyone, just to start. You are very correct, Nike, in respect to the fact that, in the financial industry, which is where I work, there is a vast disparity between, one, ethnic minorities in my field, as well as, just alluding to what Feyi said, the fact that the higher you get, the less women you find, especially in wealth management, which is the sector of the financial services that I work in. So yes, there's definitely a gap in it, but I must say positively, they are frantically working towards closing the gap. It's very much apparent in the sense that there are, specific types of clients that women would probably be able to get through to that the male counterparts would not be able to get to. So the organizations, the financial organizations have now understood the fact that they're not getting the best of both worlds, as Feyi said. A male counterpart would bring certain characteristics to the business that would differ from what a woman would bring to the table. So in order to leverage off both resources, they're now spending adequate time in trying to close down that gap. So yes, I have experienced it, but they are actively making the efforts in bringing, empowering more women to apply for roles, making these trainings available for women, putting in schemes for women who are coming back from maternity, so they're not, disadvantaged, based on the gaps in their professional careers. So there are various things that are now being introduced to the organizations just to help close the gap, and also to increase the confidence in women to actually apply for these roles and get them, and understand that they're not just applying just as a tick in the box exercise, that there is actually a huge probability of them getting those roles as well.
Thank you so much. And I think to your point, so we really do appreciate, in celebration of all that has been done, we definitely appreciate that organizations have tried to close the gender gap. But what do you do about the not so obvious gaps, where what is in policy and sometimes what happens under a particular type of boss might be very, very different, where HR has certain things written in the guidance and in the, in employee manuals, but when push comes to shove, you need to sort of advocate for yourself. Bringing a woman's perspective, I'm just going to also just want, maybe, what would you say has been, and it's twofold, your biggest challenge and so what's your strength and your biggest challenge? Have you ever felt some form of bias against you, even from your It could be it could be your accent, it could be your gender, it could be your race, it could be the fact that you're married with children and you have to leave at 5 o'clock, and a single woman can stay in the office till 7 o'clock and go to work, go for drinks afterwards and socialize. Do you find, all sorts of unique things around being a woman and different things we call our strength, sometimes feeding into that bias that you faced in the workplace? And I'd love to, examples if you have any.
Okay.
And I'll let anyone answer that.
Is that for me?
Yeah. Okay. Let's start with you.
Okay. All of those scenarios, I would say I've probably experienced one of them or the other. So going to the pub or not going to the pub, having to leave after a certain time because you have to go back to the family at home. All of those things I have experienced. However, what I have used to empower myself in those sort of scenarios is the fact that I wouldn't want to be put into a position because of my gender. So, they're now, organizations can now start to overplay where, we're now having to fill out the quota. So I have empowered myself by ensuring that the role that I'm actually doing, I am creating and adding value. So regardless of whether or not I go to the pub or I leave at certain times, I have added value. And where I find that there's a gap in my knowledge, I am taking active steps to ensure that I upskill myself to be able to, provide the best service. I'm a consultant, so, I've been brought on board to provide a certain service, and it has to be at the required level, that the organization expects. So I know there are some biases. I would say the way I've empowered myself, apart from upscaling, is not focusing on the biases, because I believe, especially when it comes to subjective biases. So my line manager, for instance, you may have had subtle, oh, it's not pronounced that way, it's this way. Well, I'm African. So I'm from an African, from African, heritage. So this is how I pronounce it, and you move on. Let your work speak for itself. But when it starts getting, unprofessional, then you would probably need to introduce the formal steps, but I would say you let your work speak for itself. And from a Christian perspective, I tend to put those sort of things in prayer anyway. So that is how I have dealt with those sort of scenarios.
Interesting. Thank you.
So, I can jump in as well. Yeah. So basically at the end of the day, the biggest barrier that women face is cultural biases at work and cultural biases at home. So, a woman is supposed to do this in the house, and then at work, everyone is supposed to do this, which is kind of contrarian with what you're supposed to do at the house. And it's really that conflict that we all battle with. And actually, a few years back, I had a coaching company that dealt with, we worked with women who are facing these conflicts between career and family. And actually, at the end of the day, it ended up benefiting me more than anything, because I realized a few things. One, that I am very passionate about having a career, and I'm also passionate about my family. And that means that I'm not going to be able, and a lot of women, I realized in talking to many women, they want to do 100% at work and 100% at home, and that leads to complete breakdown. So what I realized early on is that I cannot do 100% at work and 100% at home all the time. Sometimes I will do 50 at work, 50 at home. Sometimes I need to ramp up at work and do less at home. Sometimes I need to ramp up at work. And I just decided I'm not apologizing to anyone. I will do the job. And like Aggie said, I will do the job that is required of me and even do more and let my work speak for itself. And I will be there for my family and also, make sure that my family knows that I'm there for them. So no apologies, prioritize my life the way that I need to prioritize it. if I need to leave work at 5 or 6, in fact, I was just chatting with a few of my colleagues who are like, Feyi has balance, but it's because of years of practice, right? And years of not caring. And one of the things I always tell my friends, Anika will know this, there's this book I read that really helped. Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner Office. It says, don't take permission. Just tell. If I need to go for my son's thing, I will inform you. I will inform my boss, there is a thing in my son's school, I need to go. And nowadays, I don't really even need to inform as much. But back in the day, I will inform you that I have to go. I won't say, oh, please, can I go? No. I am going for this event at my son's place. I'm going to get my work done. And it could mean that you have to do work after hours. It could mean you have to be flexible, but you do what you need to do so that at the end of the day, you're not, the only person that you need to that you need to make sure that you're in tune with is yourself, God, and also if you're married, your husband. So for me, it's prioritizing those people and ensuring that I am doing what is congruent with who I am, as opposed to what society thinks. Like society, we can talk about this. Society thinks I should be cleaning my house, cooking food, and all these things. And I do, as long as my husband is okay, we're good. But a lot of women will run themselves ragged trying to please everyone at work and everyone at home, and it's just a recipe for disaster.
Absolutely. And I think two of you have, the last thing you said is really one of the areas I really wanted to just get Vanessa's input. But just before I do that, please, if you have questions or you want to make a comment, please feel free. There's a comment here from Adebayo. She said, is letting your work speak for itself, being proactive, especially in corporate America. It seems rather laid back to let our work speak for itself. Should we not seek to be visible rather than also just maybe being in the corner and letting our work speak for itself? Do you feel at times, even when you do, so that's where her question stops. So just before I go to Vanessa, if I think about what Adebayo is trying to say is that sometimes you're good and you deliver a good job, but there are forces, there are people who undermine it, who, as we all know, if you're not visible enough, I've had somebody, I was speaking to a very female, let me finish that sentence, can take over what you've done. So I had one of my very, senior female managers, she was talking to me, we were chatting, and there's a particular super senior official who wanted something from her boss. He wasn't available. And his assistant said, well, can you send me the information so I can send it to this very senior professional? And she was like, no, it's okay. I'll send it myself. Yeah. Because he wasn't around. The email was directly to him. Can you give me this information? And so because he's not around, she said, can you get it from her and send it to him? But she chose not to do that. But in sending it herself to this, to the CEO, she was able to craft the message. She got herself visibility. She was able to articulate, because she's the one that really did the work. So, but she did it in a good way. She didn't try and go force herself, but she was able to bring context, and she was brought into that conversation because the email now included her. The email chain now included her, and she got that visibility. So if I go back to what Adebayo said, where do you strike that balance? I think what I understand is, at the end of the day, even though people can be biased, when you're very professional and good at what you do, God always uses that, because we're bringing a Christian woman's perspective. But if we also link it back to nice girls don't get the corner office, when do you know that you need to maybe push back or be more visible? Again, I'll open it up to maybe one or two comments. And please, if you're on Facebook Live or you're on Zoom and you have a practical experience, please just ping us on chat. The admin team would unmute you and would love to hear your thoughts as well. But yeah, so I think, I don't know if that should be a question, but or something that we just balance. But if anybody wants to say something for 2 minutes on that, then before we close it out.
Okay, we'll just add kind of back to the question. I don't know if it'll cover the previous question that was just asked, but I was going to say, I think for me at my age, I've kind of taken a non-traditional route in regards to like my occupation. So I think a lot of times, when we think about, our early 20s or our late 20s, we're kind of building and developing ourselves in our career. And for me personally, it was a big step of faith to kind of decide that I wanted to run my own nonprofit. And it's a continuous battle trying to maximize my full potential and walk in this new position, and being able to just do the very best that I can. But I think a lot of the time it's kind of like the marks that we set for ourselves. You know, at this age, I should be working under an organization, making X amount of money, preparing for marriage. And
I can't hear Vanessa. I can't hear you. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. So a lot of the time, when you're starting a business or a nonprofit or anything, it requires so much of you. And so I realized that just being in this space, this is like my baby. This is my main focus. And so a lot of times I'll hear people say, "Oh, you know, you're doing a good job, but what about marriage? Where's your husband? When are you going to get married?" You know, and it's like, oh, like it's almost like a double-handed, compliment, because it's like, oh, you're doing a good job, but you're not complete if you don't have this component. And not that I do desire marriage, not that I don't, want and desire to get married, but I think that as a woman, you can't just be like, if I were a man and I was running a business, no one would tell a man, "Oh, when you gonna get married?" He gets married when he gets married. So I think it's like the age, like the setting, like kind of people setting marks for you and thinking that you should accomplish things at certain times of your life because you are a woman, and also kind of devaluing, I guess, maybe what you're doing because you're not complete or you're not fully accomplished if you don't have something else in addition to what you're doing. And I think for me, what has helped me is just being confident that I know that God would align things at the exact time when it's supposed to happen. And I think being confident that, He's placed me in such a time as this, and He knows what the beginning to the end is. So no matter what people say left, right, and center about where they think I should be, as long as I know that God is in line with what I'm doing, then I think I'm okay with it. Like,
that's really, no, I think that's such a fantastic point that you made. And I was going to come there, but I think you've put us in a very good place where I want us to be. Because when we talk about International Women's Day, each for equal, at times, I think as women, we've done a really fantastic job with the narrative that we need to support each other, we need to be there for each other, women encouraging, pulling women up. But I think, in the area of mental health and expectations, I want to merge what Feyi said that, was very straightforward, but I'm sure it took a while, that becoming comfortable at your core with, I want to be a career woman and I want to have a fantastic home and family. And how do I do that without apologizing? It's a journey. And I'm sure that she's had to, I call her Feyi, if I call her Vulture, I'm sure she's had to fight her way. And I know Aggie personally, I see the women here are very feisty women, which, back to what Adebayo was saying, I literally know every single person here, very feisty, very determined, very focused. And I love the angle that, Vanessa just brought, that there's a bias that sometimes as women, we know it happens, but even as women, our expectation that now that I feel I want to go chart this course that I believe God has put into my heart to deal with mental health, inside what she's doing are the problems that bring mental health issues. So let's take it to, how do we as women maintain that strength in our inner man? That mental, we're talking about the woman's perspective, where you feel there's bias, where you feel there's inequality, where you feel you're not where you should be because there are forces working against you, where you feel that sometimes, unfortunately, your family, because for you, what you said is not common with everybody. There's some women who really want to have a fantastic career. They're brilliant, they're intelligent, but they don't have the support of their family. They don't really have the support of their spouse. Not that their spouse doesn't love them, but the spouse also is trying to chase his, and he feels you need to make that sacrifice. Let's bring that Christian woman's perspective into this and the impact it sometimes has on us emotionally, on our mental health, having to push back some of these wrong narratives that sometimes hinders us from being the best that we can be. Again, just practical examples of what you've experienced. And I know one of the, if I can just say a little bit in there, is the angle of even when the guilt most women face, especially after the first baby and they have to go back to work, just even the guilt, the emotional guilt that at times women feel, those who have to go back to work. I was in America when I had my children. If I was in the UK, I think it might be a different story, because I'm amazed at people, the average people go for 1 year of maternity leave and they are paid. I'm like, where was I when they were having children? I mean, some of us were like, we were lucky when we went back at 14, 15 weeks, 13 weeks, 3 months. And just the impact that has on us. And when we're ready to push, all of these things lend itself to some level of bias and sometimes inequality. So from a mental health perspective and from a strengthening ourselves on this platform, what would you say about about how to go beyond that and go after everything God has for us? And I'll let Vanessa start off with that mental health.
Okay.
And what you've seen, what you've experienced in this industry. I know we've talked about the fact that both men and women struggle, but I wanted us to just hone in on some of the women's struggles and what you as an organization you've started doing to support women.
Support women, okay. So we focus more on young adults, but we're also, over time, we have different people who come across our organization, and specifically women that are just really interested in learning more about what we do.
I think Vanessa's voice has gone off.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. Yes. Women just go through so much. We're naturally nurturers, and so we're always worried about everybody else but ourselves. And so we see a lot of burnout, especially in the mental health space, because we see moms that are not only moms, but wives, career women, friends, mentors, and they wear all these different hats, and they get to a point where they just need a break and they can't handle everything that's on their plate at once. And so it comes down to balance, and being able to find out, okay, what are your priorities? Where do the things that you love lie? Sometimes we're just doing so much, and when we're doing so much, it's not even adding up to what we're actually passionate about or what we need to be focusing on in terms of our productivity. I also think understanding your self-worth and understanding exactly where your purpose lies. I think a lot of the time we have all these different things going on in our lives, and then we realize that sometimes we're involved in things that we're not necessarily adding to our purpose, or they're not necessarily adding up to the bigger picture, what God has called us to do. So being able to kind of hone in on the things that you love and being authentically yourself and knowing who you are and whose you are. Because I think a lot of times the world would try to tell you you're A, B, C, D, E, and you need to know who you are. No one should be able to tell you otherwise. And so with all that being said, I think it's a constant journey. We're always gonna, have naysayers, always gonna have things that, weigh heavy on us. But I think balance, self-worth, and discipline will definitely help us to be able to push through and get through life's challenges, because they never stop. I mean, they'll always be there, but I think it's just having a better understanding of who we are, and then being able to push forward.
Thank you. Balance, self-worth, discipline, honing in on that. And I love that part about knowing who you are and whose you are. Because, have we all not experienced sometimes that, the workplace is a battleground. The business place is a battleground. Your ministry, your passion can be a battleground. And so there are times when I believe there's some inequalities we experience that we also need the Lord's help with that. And I want to take a comment that's just come through. I'm going to pose that first to Feyi, and then also take another angle for Aggie. So somebody says, what do you do about inequality when it comes to what you're paid? At my job, I was the supervisor, and I unknowingly found out that one of the men I supervised was earning quite a number above me. I spoke to my boss, and his first question was, how did you find out? And then his excuse was that the guy negotiated better. And at my next review, that I should get a raise, that I would get a raise to reflect my position. So if she hadn't said anything, they didn't realize that her position was to supervise the guy. So that's why we said, what companies say in their HR policy and what happens doesn't always play out. What do you do? So I like what the lady did. She went straight away and she challenged it. But is that enough? Because he said, when it's your next review. Now, what if our next review was in 6 months' time? What would you say should be done? And at what point do you think there's a need to escalate some issues? Because I think women, sometimes you don't want to be seen as troublemaker. And these people, let me just wait for next review. Again, would a guy see this as troublemaker, or would he go guns blazing that I'm not going to take that? We're going to, we have to. So what do you think? And again, we're Christian women, what's our perspective? How do you suggest we handle situations like this in the workplace?
So the workplace is definitely a battleground. And this, I've had this situation, a friend of mine, the exact same thing happened to her. She even ended up quitting her job over it because she couldn't get over it. It happens. Women get paid less than men, more generally, and Black women even less. It is a thing. So I think the fact that the woman actually went and accosted her manager is excellent. You know, and this is one thing that my husband always says, that I'm not as feisty at work as I am at home. And it's true. Because I mean, yeah, you could say go higher and make it a whole thing. But then, you know, at the end of the day, when you're seen as a troublemaker, it actually reflects negatively. I think the fact that she raised it to her boss is critical. The next person you need to raise it to is Baba God. Yeah. God has fought so many, I can't even tell you how many battles that God has fought for me, that I always somehow end up on top. Even though people come at me with different things, the office is a battleground. You have got to pray. You have got to go to the, thank God we have that secret weapon. I mean, this, just a few weeks ago, one of my colleagues came to town and I was recounting the past few months that I had. He was like, wow, because I had a lot of struggles from different angles, different things. And somehow I was victorious, and I didn't even, so I would say don't be a fighter at work, because it really never ends well. But at the same time, speak your mind and let people know where you stand. And that next review, make sure it happens, right? And then start saying things like, you know, this seems discriminatory to me, you know, and get them a bit uncomfortable. In this day and age, that's why I keep saying that this is a good time to be a woman, because you can really now make people uncomfortable. You know, we're in the Me Too generation, so make them uncomfortable without ruffling too many feathers is how I would treat it, and definitely pray.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Did you want to add anything in there?
I mean, I was just going to go back to the mental health point with regards to, you know, how do we balance our mental health with, you know, I guess other hats that we wear. And just wanted to give an example actually of something that happened to one of my line managers. And we had a regulatory program where she was a program director, you know, getting there very early in the morning, leaving late nights, working weekends. Obviously, family felt very neglected. She was doing that because she thought, you know, this would definitely get me the promotion. Come promotion time, she was promised she was going to get the promotion. She had printed off her cards. It didn't happen. Now, she had a mental breakdown because she had put her all into it. So it got to the point where she said she wanted to see me. We went to the canteen, sat down, and she just started crying. And I started crying as well, because I'm thinking, why is this, you know, this senior manager, and she said she had done everything she thought was necessary. And, you know, and I just looked at her and I said, is this really worth it? Is this worth your mental health? You know, and we went through that whole, you know, support system. I told her what she needed to do, who she needed to talk to. You know, there was no shame in getting, you know, help mentally, you know, if, you know, just speak to someone, speak to a professional. And she did that, and then coming back, she had to go off for 6 weeks, got her house in order. Obviously, she had lost perspective and was living a very imbalanced life.
Right.
Came back after 6 weeks. She had come to terms with the fact that, yes, I didn't get the role. I didn't get the promotion, but her home was in order. She picked up her hobbies, things she actually enjoyed doing. And now she is in a much better place. So I guess, I just wanted to highlight the fact that we shouldn't lose perspective of, of all the hats we are, that we're wearing.
Yeah.
And we need to prioritize ourselves, because as you said, we can't give what we don't have. If we're not holistic in ourselves, then we're of no use to anyone, really. So, she's way better, but we shouldn't have to get to that level to get things back on track.
And I think just to round up this point, and thank you, I have quite a few comments from some of the things you've said, and I'll read them out. What I'm hearing for us here, ladies, is ultimately we mustn't forget about trusting in God. I think Vanessa talked about it earlier on, about knowing whose you are, knowing the fact that He called you at this point. He has the entire picture for your life. So even when human beings seem to disappoint you, when you trust in God, the Bible is filled with those sort of stories, isn't it? You can imagine Joseph felt he had worked so hard. At least he will have the corner room in Potiphar's house. He'll be the supervisor. That's all he could see of his life. And a lot of people would have thought, Joseph, you're not a normal slave. You are Potiphar's beloved slave. That was the position. But then he seemed to have fallen. After everything he did, he was so unappreciated. But he had to have kept his mind intact, because he went to a lower position and yet he could still function. And I think that's something we should be encouraged as women, that no matter what position we may seem to be in life, when mentally we know, because the secret of Joseph in all of this was God was with him. As Christian women, when we realize God is always with us, no matter the inequalities we face, no matter the discrimination, no matter the attack, no matter the fact that you feel your business was the best pitched for a role and you were denied, God has your back. And that trust is what really helps us from a mental health perspective. So very quick one, I just want to quickly take comments. Somebody said, I love the comment about make them feel uncomfortable without ruffling feathers. People are very quick to call Black women aggressive. So it's always hard to balance speaking up without getting labeled. So learning that language, and it's the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit can give you the right words to speak that will make people so uncomfortable, and they'll feel so guilty, about what's happening, and you can actually move that. I'm going to take the question on marriage, but please give me a quick comment. Somebody else said, AA said, yes, you have to be super good at what you do. Second, you always have to do a salary research in your industry. Third, have a backup, which includes looking for opportunities, even when you have a job. Fourthly, speak up without being unreasonable. Negotiate and give suggestions of other ways you can be compensated. This is for the person talking about work. E.g., okay, even if I'm not due for a review, I like this. Work remotely, take extra paid time off, so that you can feel that you're getting something. But if people, assuming you have a boss who was not as open as this was to review, she says, if they are obstinate on bending, pray. Maybe it's time for you to move on, ask the Lord, be strategic. And so as we can see, I think one thing that I like about that comment is the Bible says, and this is one of our favorite EPR scriptures, as many as are led by the Spirit of God, they are the sons of God. And so let the Holy Spirit lead you as to what you need to do in all situations. So question for us, ladies. I know that we have some of our single ladies on the call. I was quite excited when Vanessa brought that angle. So we have, there's another one. Sorry, I might have missed this. Okay, Funke said, you have to advocate for yourself. You have to understand and articulate your value proposition, women. We need to, know that a lot of our Caucasian counterparts do well is being able to humbly brag. A lot of times we don't brag enough about what we can do well. So saying it in a positive way. Oh my goodness, so many. We have a therapist on the call, one of our EPR ladies. As a therapist, I see a lot of women having guilt over juggling between a mother and a career woman. There's a term called mom guilt, which affects a lot of women. But in therapy, there's something we use as a strength perspective, which helps women focus more on their strength and focus on themselves. Women tend to neglect themselves, to what Aggie said, in order to meet the overall goal. So the focus is always on the individual. See yourself outside of marriage, career, family. Those are roles you fill. Mm-hmm. You are a complete entity without that. And I think that helps us with this question. I'm not married. This is a question from one of the ladies. But I was wondering about marriage, especially having children. I know that God's desire is for us to have a great home if we get married. But how do you have that balance? How do you know that you haven't started putting your wants and needs above those of others, especially the ones God has given to you? So I'm almost wondering if this is one of those questions that underlining it is, when you have a husband, you have children, God also has a purpose for your home. Mm-hmm. How do you know that your ambition is not that ambition instead of it being purpose? So as you progress in whatever, if you're in media, if you're a teacher, whatever you want to do, we believe in EPR Women's Network, God has called you to be the best and to influence people. So I think I should look at it from, bring it from that perspective. And sorry, if there's anybody on the call and you actually want to speak as well, the admin team are in the background will just unmute you and you can speak about that. So Vanessa, does that resonate with you? Do you sometimes worry that, when you have children, the other day, I don't know where you were, was it Ivory Coast? Then I saw you in Ghana. It was probably about a week ago in one lovely house in Ghana. Today you are in Abuja, with Feyi, So do you worry about the fact that God has given you a passion? Because for you, this is like a ministry, but it's a non-profit organization. You are the CEO, so it is a career because you have, and you've done an amazing job. This woman has done an amazing job building teams in countries, that people that she has a way of going into a country and get a group of people and they're so passionate about this. She motivates them and they have events even when she's in the States. Do you feel that when I get married, I may need to stop? What do I do? Should I just do everything now? Because if by the time children come, I may have to sit at home for 2 weeks. Those are valid questions. How do you process that for someone in your area of career and ministry?
Once again, I think, I'm in a unique space right now. And I think it's a day-to-day conversation I have with myself and with God. I think for me, I'm young, but I know that I'm getting to the point where I would like to, settle down and find someone that, I can spend the rest of my life with. But at the same time, I'm utilizing my single years. And so when people see me and they're like, she's all over the place, or she's here this day and here, I'm doing it because I believe this is the time to do it. I'm maximizing my time. I know that when there comes a time when I have a child or get married, I may not be able to have the flexibility to do what I'm doing now. And so for me, I almost feel like I'm building up my brand, I'm building up my organization so that when I do get to a point where other aspects of life happen, I'll be able to have it run by itself without me having to kind of go from place to place. I think, there's definitely worries. I'm human. Like, am I going to find someone that understands what I'm trying to achieve? Am I going to find someone that understands what God has called me to do? Am I going to find someone that understands that I want to maximize my full potential? But I believe that ultimately God knows from the beginning to the end, like I always say, and I feel that He will place somebody in my life that understands it fully. And if they don't, then they're probably just not meant for me. And I think when it gets to the point where I get married and I have kids, I think priorities naturally will change. But until then, I'm living my life unapologetically and I'm walking in my purpose.
Excellent. Wonderful. Feyi, you can say something.
Yes, I was going to add to that. I think Vanessa's last point is really critical. one of my sayings that I keep in my back pocket is Sheryl Sandberg, CEO of Facebook. She said, one of the most important career decision a woman makes is the man she marries. And it's very true, right? So if you are somebody who believes that your career is also part of your purpose and your passion and something that you would like to continue in some way over the course of your life, then your life partner has to buy into that. I think it's interesting to me how a lot of women end up getting married and they're surprised, at what their husbands say in terms of what they should be doing as wives and mothers. But those are important discussions to have before you get married. So you can use that as part of your criteria. Another thing that I do tell women is now looking at it, my oldest is 17. Life is about phases, right? So we have just a short while ago, we were all in the midst of, diapers and all these things. And now we're talking about college and life evolves. So it's not a matter of this is how it's always going to be. There are going to be times in your life where you really need to test slow, as we say, put down a break, take a little bit of a break, or even just dial down. And I always say, it doesn't mean that, you have to quit your job. Maybe you need to, maybe depending on the kind of job you have, maybe you can work out a part-time arrangement. Maybe you can just, I agree that you're not going to be a superstar at work for these years, but there are going to be some intense years in those early years. But then, they grow and then you can ramp up. So I look at women, younger women now, and, I try to counsel them that this is not the end of the world. It's a phase. Time passes. So don't make permanent decisions, for a temporary situation. I mean, child rearing is intense and you have to make some hard choices. But I think that ultimately another thing that has been said is you have to be true to yourself. What is important to you? And even to some women, it might be that the decision is, look, I want to 100% focus on my family. And you make that decision and you also own that decision as well. Just be true to who you are. Yeah. So because there are a lot of frustrated women out there, lots of frustrated housewives and a lot of frustrated career women. So it's really about making sure that you have that balance, you have the support of your spouse, whichever decision you decide on. And, you take it easy on yourself. Be kind to yourself.
Be kind to yourself. I like that. And I think when the last time we caught up and you told me about going back to school, I thought that was amazing. Maybe you can share your experience because I think you really typify, and if you don't mind being personal, just the journey and the different things and how today, looking at everything by His grace, you're still in that space of going after your dreams.
Okay. So just to, I guess, put into perspective, so I am, a wife, a mother of 3 children, and also a consultant. Been doing that now for about 16 years. And also a student. So I'm studying for my law degree. I have, I've already got a degree and a master's, but, the Lord, I feel is something I'm led to do. So there are a lot of hats that I am wearing. I'm also just starting up, an emotional wellness service as well to women, just to help women understand, just based on the conversations that we've had today, how to have a balanced life. Because I have dealt with close family members who've been through depression and mental health issues, and I believe it's something that we all need to be educated on. So I believe, based on what we've all been discussing, one of the key challenges is we can very quickly get a very unbalanced life if we do not sit down and prioritize. So I have got, my plate is full. However, I use tools to my advantage. So I ensure everything is in my calendar, they're diarized. The anointed no, it's a complete sentence. If you cannot do something, you say no. Don't take on what you cannot, that you can't do. And I'm the only person that can manage that myself. I can't blame any other person if things fall out of place for me. So I'm in charge of my timelines, my destiny, really. So I use my calendar. I have a fantastic support system. That's another thing I use. I've
Yeah.
got family and friends. If I need help, I'm not ashamed to ask for help. If I've got, if there's something that I don't understand, you ask people. I don't try to be the superhero. So they're just things that we can do things if we put the right tools in place, and we take advantage of the right tools. So, I guess that's something I wanted to share.
That's really brilliant. So leveraging on other women, leveraging on the support system, own your story, make your decisions, realize that sacrificing to stay home or sacrificing to work, because everything, life is a sacrifice. You're giving of yourself, make sure that you're led by God and trust that at the right time, you'll be able to do things you need to do. And like Vanessa said, run with wherever you are. If this is what's in your heart, run with it and trust God that when the season changes, not only would you change with it, but the right person will be there with you. And there was a comment from Abi Odetunde. She says, what I've realized is that you can work hard and get overlooked. This was about the promotion. When it comes to being promoted, at the end of the day, it's all about the favor of God. So to everybody's point here, that, yes, own your work, yes, well, but don't forget you're also favored and God works for you. I think we've already answered the question about navigating purpose versus ambition. Somebody, Frida Raymond said, in answer to Vanessa's questions, I was working in British Airways when I started having kids in a role that required me to travel a lot. And I was not even in cabin crew. I would say who you marry is really key. This person needs to be someone who will give you his full support. Also, you have to build mutually beneficial support systems. I had my sisters, neighbors, parents, nannies, technology, every form of support I needed. It all worked out because I was intentional about it. So I think that this is one of the things we're empowering ourselves. So if you're single, you can support people. If you're married, you can also support other people. AA says that single ladies, please don't ever think you need to give up on your passion or dreams after marriage. Marriage is supposed to enhance all of this. Of course, you need to be prayerful, create balance with work, and walk in wisdom. But to become all that God has put in you. But remember the parable of the talents. The master gave all of them according to their abilities. Isn't this very real, sisters? I've been so guilty of this. I'm the kind of person that because I can do a lot of things, I overstretch myself. So the Lord always brings me to that meeting with him to say, you're overstretching yourself. So sometimes that's part of the mental stress and the pressure that we feel as well. So let me just see if we have anything else, any final questions before we start to round up. This has been amazing. People are repeating your quotes, ladies, on the chat group. How do you juggle a family, full-time career, being in school for law? I think it's been answered. She's talked about her support system. Somebody said they love your comment. No is a complete sentence. So that's a very good one. Yes. Somebody also talked about, I think it's still Frida, talked about, please, women negotiate for things at work. She says, I tagged on unpaid leave at the end of my maternity leave to extend it. I also negotiated doing part-time work just after I returned from maternity leave for my daughter because she needed more time to get used to the creche I put her in. So I think what she's saying is be open. If you're a career woman, also be open. A lot of companies have improved when it comes to the needs of women. And I think as women, when we are praying for a place to work, we should interview the role. Sometimes we're so concerned about am I fit? But when you know who you are, you also want to ask, is this company fit for me? Because I'm bringing value to this place. So you need to ask them, can I work from home? One of the things that has been very helpful before I take a role is I must have a one-day work from home. And thank God that one day has grown to 2. And right now, to God be the glory, we're all 5 days work from home at the moment. So we have to ask the Lord to help us to maximize this period and not be so overwhelmed with the things going on. To say we all finally get to work from home for those who, have that opportunity. So thank you all very much. I know we've had quite a lot of feedback and people have been very engaging. Some of the questions came from people, online, chat room, Facebook. So let me get ready to just round up by asking each person to give us your 2-minute international Women's Day empowering word, especially again, and I don't know, maybe God wants us to bring it there. I feel things like bias, inequality, when we do experience it, and even if we don't experience it, it affects our mind, it affects what we feel. So can you give us that empowering statement before we go into, I know we have our WCW and some of the appreciation that we will do. Women need to empower women. Women need to encourage women. But please give us some final thoughts, just in 2 minutes, what you would say to every woman on the call this morning or this evening, whatever part of the world you're in. So let me go around. Let me start with Aggie.
Okay, I would say we have the presence, the power, the protection, and provision of God to be productive and powerful. So we should understand who we are. And as we've said before, whose we are. When we know whose we are, then no mountain is insurmountable. We can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. So as a woman, don't look to tick all the boxes before you apply for a role. A man would only look at 5% of it and apply for it. Take the plunge, be vulnerable and courageous. If you don't put yourself out there, then no one's going to know you exist. So you do need to lean in. And the fact that you're leaning in at the table means you are capable of being at that table.
Thank you.
And that's what I wanted to share with everyone.
Beautiful. Vanessa, what would you share with us in closing?
I think I have like at least 3 thoughts to leave with everyone. I think the first one is delay doesn't mean denial. As women, we must fight for what we deserve and what is rightfully ours. The second one is God can call anyone to serve, even the most unlikely. And even when we feel insignificant in the eyes of people, God can allow us to do something that is significant to the world. And the last one is sometimes it takes us being brave to get the job done. It won't be easy, but it'll definitely be worth it.
Thank you. Beautiful. Thank you so much. It's time to be brave women and to go forward. I love what Aggie said about, don't wait till you can tick all the boxes, step out in faith and go for it. And Feyi.
So what I would say to the women out there is that you are stronger than you think you are. You are more powerful than you think you are. Just let go of all the guilt, the mom guilt, the single girl guilt, let it go. Let go of being a perfectionist. It's not possible. Only God is perfect. We're working towards perfection. And let go of the Joneses. Let go of what people say. What will people say? What will people say? And just own your superstardom.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. And I think as we just take everyone back through, thank you so much. We've had a great time. I'm going to get ready to hand over to Chichi. But before I do that, there's something that is in our presentation slide, which I'm sort of showing on the screen, which is, appreciation is a powerful tool of empowerment. So in our International Women's Day celebration from Esther's Preparation Room, we want to leave you with this. Let us be on the forefront of appreciating other women. Let us be on the forefront for encouraging other women. If there's a single woman around you, a married woman around you, a woman with children, a single mom, an elderly woman, no matter what it is, I think in light of each for equal, the key word for us is appreciation. And in Esther's preparation room and this EPR network, our goal, like we said, is to ensure that we're all empowered, that there is something big God has for us, that He wants us to go forward with, and we can do it no matter what comes our way. We know God is there for us. I feel so strongly in my heart to tell everybody the word the Lord has dropped in my spirit all week has been from Job 22:29. When men say there's a casting down, God says there's a lifting up. And I just want to encourage you, you're being lifted up. Any dream, activity that you desire, this is the right season to go for it. And I'll hand over to Chichi as she takes us through our WCW.
Oh my gosh, that was incredible and amazing. I learned so much, and hopefully, ladies, you enjoyed the webinar as well. We just want to say a huge thank you to our panelists. They prepared ahead of time, but as you can see, like all of this was what they had lived out. They spoke their own authentic truth because they had lived all of these things out. We just want to say thank you. You are our women's crush. And so we just want to give a shout out to Miss Feyi Boroffice. And we also want you to stay connected. You know, the conversation doesn't end here. If you know these women, if you follow them already, you know that they're always engaging the questions and the thoughts that we've talked about here. And so I want you guys, if you can, we just wanted to say thank you to them. Please follow Aggie as well. Aggie has phenomenal content also through her company called Olivette, which is on Facebook and Instagram, and that's also her personal Instagram handle. So our women's crush as well goes to Miss Aggie Bamidele. And last but not least, the fabulous Vanessa, who is always going all over the world speaking on behalf of those who need to be empowered. And, you know, a lot of what she said here resonated with all of us. And those are her handles. So she is the executive director and CEO of Africa's Mental Health Matters, and the handle is there. So please follow them. They're doing phenomenal work and continue to do phenomenal work all over the globe. And that is her personal handle as well. So always exciting work. And we couldn't have done this without you. Our women's crush goes out to the many ladies that are on this line. I know that a lot of you shared it. We want to give a shout out to those on Facebook Live. We have quite a few on Facebook Live as well. For those of our EPR ladies who joined us, for those who joined us for the first time, we don't take it for granted that you could be doing anything on this Saturday, but you decided to join us. So we just wanted to say thank you. And we want you to follow us and continue the conversation. So on YouTube, on Instagram, on Twitter, everywhere, our handle is at Esther's Preparation Room. So please follow us. And another thing is this video has been recorded, so we are going to send it out. But really quickly, we want to hear from you. So we're going to launch a feedback poll. It's just 3 questions. And we just want to get your feedback about this session. How did we do? We take the feedback very seriously, and we always go back and look at the comments. So if you could just tap the poll, you should see it live right now. And I see the responses coming in. We will give a few more seconds for the poll to complete. Awesome. So as the polls are coming in, we are going to continue with some of our other announcements. We're also going to be giving a giveaway. So after the poll, we will let you know more about that. And one thing we want to do in this session is we want it to be actionable. We want each of our EPR webinars to be actionable. So we want to ask you, what is the one action you are willing to take in the next month to fight bias and inequality? So that could be in your own life, looking at your salary, doing a salary comparison in your industry, negotiating, asking for more paid time off, or encouraging somebody or appreciating somebody. Whatever it is that was that most resonated with you in this webinar, what is the one action you are willing to take based on this webinar? So about 65% of our attendees have voted. We're going to wait a few more minutes for the poll. So just tap, if you can't find the poll, it should be at the bottom of your screen. If you are on Zoom, on Facebook Live, feel free to just comment your responses about how you rated the session overall. And last but not least, we want you to join us on our next webinar. So we have monthly webinars, and we're really excited, sort of as a tie-in to this conversation. We want to speak about designing an effective career roadmap. So not just fighting bias and inequality, but taking the initiative, being proactive, as one of the questions said. How do we emerge in the workplace, and how do we put our best foot forward in the workplace? So that is going to be on April 18th, and we welcome you to join us. We will be sending out details on that. And of course, stay tuned for all our EPR events. So I'm going to end the poll now. But one of the things we wanted to ask in terms of a giveaway is we wanted to just ask 1 or 2 people who just want to take the bold step and raise your hand and let us know one thing that you're taking away from this session. And if you would like to speak, go ahead and raise your hand. Okay, so I see one person has raised their hand. Let's see. Okay, Bumi, we are unmuting you at the, feel free to unmute yourself.
Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Hi. Thank you, Nike, for inviting us to this.
Thank you for coming.
You're welcome. What I've learned is no is a sentence. So I'm going to try and implement that. No is no.
I like that. I know that is a real good one. I think I thought I knew it, but that's one of the things I forget very quickly. So I have to keep reminding myself too. Thank you, Bumi.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Keep up the good work, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Anyone else? We have one comment from Ms. Tony Shogalu that says, be authentic. So ladies, thank you for speaking up. Thank you for letting us know. From Theodora, being intentional to let your work speak for itself, but also being intentional and prayerful about everything. So for those who spoke up, we actually have a small gift for you. We're going to be contacting you after the webinar. It's going to be digital, so no worries. You don't have to pick it up or anything like that. We're going to harness technology during these times, and we just wanted to say a small thank you to you. Thank you, ladies, for joining us. I'll hand over to Pian to close us out.
Thank you. I'd like to say such a big thank you to Vanessa, to Feyi, and to Aggie. By an amazing happenstance, Vanessa happened to be in Abuja, so she popped over to Feyi's place, as you can see, but she's traveling back to DC tomorrow, and we know that the Lord will keep you as you travel even during this time. I really want to appreciate you ladies. Not only have you been such a blessing to us, you're actually part of this women's network as well, and you've so beautifully captured the ethos and the heart of what we're here to do. And I just want to thank every single person who has joined in at any point in time. Thank you for always being very supportive. I just wanted to really just impress upon you that I feel this is a movement. I feel that this is something that the Lord is doing to bring us as his children, as his daughters, and to bring the wisdom and the experiences that we have into our workplace, into our business, into our ministry. We believe that whether you're at home or in the marketplace, God wants to use your influence. He wants you through your children to influence others. He wants you through your neighbors to influence others, through your job, your career, or your business. But more importantly, for you to dominate. That word is very critical to us, and that was one of the things the Lord laid upon our heart. So for EPR Women's Network, we are developing the tools and the relationships for us to dominate in the area God has called us to. Domination isn't about the limelight. It is about being a light to those around you and changing your environment for the kingdom of God. And we just want to once again encourage you to follow us, be a part of this movement. We look forward to engaging with you next month when we bring the word that the Lord said to us is, arise and shine, for your light has come. How do you emerge in your next season? Things are happening all around us in the world today to let us know the time of the church has come. The Lord says in the last days, the mountain of the Lord's house will be raised up above all other mountains. There's the mountain of entertainment. There's a mountain of education. There's a mountain of business, of religion. There's a mountain, of sports, media, healthcare, entertainment, all sorts of things. And God is saying it's time for my kids, my daughters, to arise and to take their position. So let's do this together. Hope you have a lovely weekend. Our next meeting is Monday morning. I just want to quickly plug that in. We said a lot of things, that the workplace is a battleground. We don't joke with it. So what we do is Monday, 5 a.m. British Standard Time. We know that the clocks will be changing shortly. So normally it's 12 midnight in the US but on the Eastern zone, but right now it's 1 a.m. and it's 6 a.m. in the US. We go on Instagram Live, so follow us on Esther's Preparation Room, and we make prophetic declaration for the week. We speak into the week, we speak into everything that would happen. As we all know, we're not women who take things for granted. We believe it's important for us to take control and to take charge of the spirit where the influence of what happens in the physical occurs. So please feel free to join us on Instagram Live on Monday, 5 a.m. British Standard Time. Thank you very much, everyone. And we look forward to catching up with you again. Stay safe. The Lord will be with you, be with your homes. We cover everyone by the blood of Jesus, and we say that it is well with all of us. We will not lose our loved ones. The peace of God will rest upon our lives and upon all that we have to come in contact with. Amen. Thank you, Aggie. Thank you, Feyi. Thank you, Vanessa. Love you guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye,
Thanks for
everyone.
having
Bye.
us.
Bye.
Bye.